And from there we were transferred to Monte Cassino.
Were you?
Yeah. And it was a very bad battle there. And they were shelling us like mad, and eventually the Poles took Monte Cassino, the Polish army, which was part of. We had the Poles there, we had the New Zealanders. 26,000 Americans got killed there, and I was with the Indian Army. I was sent as a reinforcement because I was a wireless operator, in Ghana, to the Indian Army, the 8th Indian, the 4th Indian Division in the 8th Army.
Right.
And it was okay. We were heavily shelled and all that sort of thing. And eventually,
What were you actually doing? What was your job?
Wireless operator.
You were a wireless operator.
Or dog's body. And dog's body. I mean,
Right.
for instance, I went out what they had, we had our guns, the artillery had our guns, and they didn't use wireless in those days because the Germans were listening to all our broadcasts. So they used wire, telephone wire. So they ran out wires from the guns to the command post and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they used to say 50 rounds, or they used to fire 50 rounds at the monastery and all that sort of thing. And they used to shell us and mortar us and all that sort of thing, and they kept breaking the wires. So one day the sergeant said to me, go out there and on your belly and see if you can find the break in the wire. I can't get through to B troop, So I was about to go. He said, no, hold on a minute. Fishman, there's another chap there that I was serving in England, another Jewish boy actually.
Yeah.
He said, Fishman, you go, I've got another job for going. So he said, Colonel, I want you to take this back to headquarters. He gave me something to take back to headquarters. Fishman went out there and he got killed. He was my best friend.
Oh.
A great guy. I was shattered, completely shattered.
Really?
He was doing something I should have gone to do, and he got killed. And it took me a long time to reconcile myself to that.
Did you feel sort of guilty about that?
Very guilty, terribly guilty. And as I knew him so well, and his parents knew me, not that they'd ever seen me, but when he used to write home, he said, Jerry sends his regards. When I wrote home to my mother, I said, Dennis sends regards to you. So they were well known to the families.
Yeah.
So I thought the least I can do is to write a letter to his folks and tell them he never suffered, he died instantaneously, didn't suffer at all. And I saw that he was, correctly interred. They put a big cross on his grave. I said, I'm not having that. He's got to have a Star of David on his grave. He's Jewish. So they took the cross away and they put a Star of David there. And I told them what I'd done. And I wrote home and told my mother that I'd done that for him and what have you. Because she'd known of him, because he served with me in England. We were mates for a long time. Anyway, my mother then sent me a parcel with all goodies in. And one of the goodies was something I'd never seen before, a biro pen. They'd just come out then. And I was looking for the nib, and I was, right, and then I saw you didn't need a nib. The point at the top was like the nib. And it was marvellous. And one of the guys came up and said, well, what's that thing you're using? So I said, it's a pen. He said, it can't be a pen, it hasn't got a nib. I said, well, it's got this little thing here. He said, let's have a go. So I said, I haven't got any paper. I said, I'll tell you what, write Mrs. B. Cohen and my address and all that sort of thing. And I sent the letter off. My letter in that envelope. When my mother got it, she looked at this thing, she knew where it had come from.
Thought it was someone else's.
Wasn't my writing.
Right.
She put it on the mantelpiece and sat there crying, looking at it all day long. And my father came home and said, what's the matter? What was? She said, something's happened to Jerry. I had a letter from where he comes from, but it's not his writing. Somebody's writing to tell us that something's happened. So I said, well, at least open the letter and see. So she opened the letter and he said, it's Jerry's writing. Well, it's signed Jerry. She wrote me a letter to tell me off. God, she gave me such a rollicking, honestly. She said, don't ever, ever do anything like that to me again.
Right.
I saw lots of German soldiers heading westwards as we were going eastwards.
They've been captured.
Scruffy, obviously, they were at that time.
Yeah.
Not the smart goose-stepping Germans that you see on television in the films. And I enjoyed getting near them and saying, I'm a Jew is all I could say in German.
Yeah.
Ich bin a Jid.
Yes.
Jude, ich bin a Jude.
Yeah,
They understood and always surprised.
Oh yes, we slept where we ate on a mess deck. We slept on the tables and on the forms and on the floor, and hammocks for those who were lucky enough to get them.
Yeah.
I got one, but my shape didn't lend itself to sleeping in a hammock. and I fell out on top of the guy sleeping on the tabletop under me. And he got up and he said, "We've been torpedoed, I said, "Shut up." I said, "We haven't been torpedoed." Just fallen out the hammock.
On the occasions when we'd settle down for sleep, we'd put coiled barbed wire around our area, and we'd attach little empty tin cans to the wire and put some pebbles in there, so that if our sentries happened to be asleep, then we'd get some warning that the Japanese were there if they touched the wire.
Yeah.
And what would happen is the Japanese would send out no more than 3 or 4 men with lots and lots of string, who would crawl up to our wire, tie one end of the string to the wire at various places around the area, which is bloody brave, don't kid yourself, it wasn't. And they would have with them firecrackers, revolvers, rifles, anything they could lay their hands on, machine guns. Then they would start running around at a good distance, pulling the wire, and of course, rattle, rattle. We were all alerted and we were surrounded because they were just doing a circle round the whole, just pulling the strings, and rifles and firecrackers and whatever guns they were using, light machine guns, heavy machine guns, all being fired from all round us. You think you're absolutely encircled. And that's why they called it jitter raids, because we'd sling some grenades down at them or fire at what we thought was Japanese. Don't know if we ever caught any of them, but it certainly succeeded in giving us the jitters, I can promise you.
Did you have a survival strategy as such?
Not really, only to come home.
Yes. I mean, was there anything that kind of kept you going?
I am religious, as I said,
Yes.
and I believe that God was with me and
Yes.
that I would survive.
Yes. Okay. That's
I was convinced.
right.
There's one of our psalms that ends, God is with me and I shall not fear. And I used to recite this to myself in Hebrew.
Yes.
In his hands I place my soul. The Lord is with me and I shall not fear.